This is Mid-Atlantic Women in Agriculture's Wednesday webinar, Editorial Calendars. Our presenter today is Christy Mannering, web developer, University of Delaware. All upcoming presentations, along with all archived presentations, can be found at our website. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Mid-Atlantic Farm Credit. Thank you for listening.
Okay, so scrolling down since the PowerPoint didn't work. A little bit about me. If you haven't had a webinar with me before, I'm the web developer at the University of Delaware for the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources and for Cooperative Extension at the University of Delaware as well. So by being web developer, I do a lot of the website and I post the content to our website and to our blogs, but I also work with a teammate, Adam Thomas, who we work on the social media accounts together, also with Michelle Walford. I'm using her account right now. Michelle Walford works particularly in Sussex County with the Carville Research Education Center in Georgetown. So we all work together and collaborate so that we can share content for both the college, the university, and extension, which is a wide variety of topics. So we're really fortunate. We don't normally have to come up with much because somewhere we have something to share. I have 3 kids. That's me in the picture with them. My hearts walking around outside my body there. Those are my Brayden, Finnegan, and Amelia. I'm sharing my social media accounts here, both personal and professional. Bring Me Up Music is my Twitter handle because I like to write music reviews, and my Facebook handle is Skrink because when it was just Brayden and I, people called him Scrappy and they called me Tink, and so I've been Skrink for about 12 years now. Before we start, I have a comic here I just laughed about it, and so since editorial calendars aren't the most riveting of information, I thought that I would start off with a laugh. You have to wonder, how would Superman be able to post a Twitter update to a phone when his outfit clearly has no pockets? So that's pretty funny. So scrolling through editorial calendars. They're meant to organize and schedule the publication of content across different media outlets. So if you have a writer who put through a press release, and press releases are mostly done online now and shared as blog updates or shared through email. But if that goes on and then you post it to your website, I post them as blogs because we use WordPress, so I just use the word blog a lot, even though it's not a blog like you would normally think about a blog. It's still a website and I post blog updates, but they're essentially press releases and articles. And then based on those, we also share that material across a variety of networks. So we have a quarterly newsletter that goes out to our donors and our alumni. We also have newsletters that go out for weekly crop updates. Emily Ernest in Georgetown sends that out every week during the summer. So she shares content that goes up on the blog in her updates. We do have a YouTube channel for the college and for extension, so there are times, there was recently one done about bagworms, and our experts went out into the field and they went into the trees and they found the bagworms and they were able to show people what they were talking about, because sometimes it's hard to be able to visualize things in a more technical research article, but if you add that video component, then you can reach a broader audience that will better understand you. Twitter and Facebook. We all know Twitter and Facebook's just a way to share content with audiences that like the same things. So if you're either sharing it with your friends or your family, or you're sharing it on a page that has a specific keyword. So if my Facebook page is mostly about music, then I know that my audience is looking for entertainment or pop culture or music. For the extension website, we have a 4-H one, and then we have our main one, and so we share information about horticulture and agriculture, natural resources, field crops, soybeans, things like that. So everybody has their own audience, and that's why we have editorial calendars, because now we're sharing in a variety of different platforms. It's becoming a 24/7 job, and everyone wants to have a break and be able to go home without thinking about this. So the calendars will help us do that. Uses. I would suggest, if you dive into using an editorial calendar, do it for a month and see if you're going to use it consistently, because you don't want to have it there and then go back to it 3 months later and realize that you missed something. So it provides a workflow. It allows for collaboration. WordPress has really great tools which allow you to do it online, but I'll show you online and offline examples. And so one of the best things for us, since we're across the state of Delaware, is that we use editorial calendars so that we're not replicating things. We might have a really great idea, both of us, and not know it. And I'll post about National Ice Cream Day, and then Michelle Walfred will be posting about National Ice Cream Day, when really we could have collaborated and shared that content to make it reach more people instead of splitting the audience into two. So having a calendar in which more than one person has access to it is incredibly helpful. I also find it allows me to better report about our digital media. My supervisor today is at an administrative retreat, and she brought our digital media report for the last 3 months with her, and we were able to correlate what we had in our calendar that we had planned and then how those items how they did after they posted. So it's great to have that all in one place instead of having multiple reports for different things. One thing I do want to stress is when I was first asked to create an editorial calendar, I grumbled about it, because with social media, so often, especially on Twitter, things happen live. And so I thought, how can I create a calendar for you for the next 3 months or for the next 6 months when I could very well be sharing something tomorrow that we had no idea would happen today? So that's one thing to know, is that they're fluid, they're flexible, they're not concrete. It's just a way for you to organize things out that you know are going to happen. I know the last week of July, every July, will be the Delaware State Fair. So I can accordingly make sure that I put that on my calendar, so when the state fair is coming up, I can start teasing the state fair. We all know when Thanksgiving will be. So if you have information about food safety with holidays, and how to cook, what temperature your turkey should be cooked at, you can just have these things planned ahead, so that when you're getting into the mode of Thanksgiving vacation and your mind goes blank and you just want to eat the turkey instead of think about it, you have that in your calendar to remember that, hey, on Monday I should tell people, if you're taking your turkey out of the freezer, let it thaw for this amount of time, let it cook, so on and so forth. So it's not concrete, it's flexible, it's just meant to help you not forget things. And if you wake up on a Monday completely blank on ideas, you can refer to your calendar and say, oh yeah, I did see that this was going to be happening. This would be perfect to write about. So what would the calendar consist of? You would probably have a column about what on dates. So you might have a calendar that had 12 sheets, or for each month, and then Monday through Friday, or if you post on Saturday and Sunday as well. And then the dates you plan to do a task. So the calendar is accessible for everybody to see. So if you go on vacation and somebody who doesn't normally post to social media is posting to it, then they can have access to that calendar and see what you had planned. Then there's also date for themed purposes. We just talked about this with Thanksgiving, but other things are if you know what items are planted, if you know which crops, if it's squash or if it's pumpkins, when should you plant this, when should you harvest this. That type of information is something that can be planned ahead of time for you to just have in your back pocket if you need content to share. So it's just an idea throughout the summer months. Especially if we have experts that do a lot on stink bugs, so they have trap counts. So we can put in our calendar, we know Bill Sissel will be out in the field during these months. We should check in on him and get some updates on what he's finding in his counts. And that's something that our audience might be really interested in knowing. Furthermore, if you have several different people on your team, we only have a few, but if you have several people, you can assign them certain tasks. So I can say, Michelle, you're awesome at Twitter. These are some ideas for Twitter, but can you go ahead and be the person to post and schedule them because you're really great at Twitter. So it's just a tool for organizing and collaborating. It also allows you to work with other bloggers. So if you know somebody in Ohio State who has a really great blog on a certain topic, you could email that person, reach out and say, can you let us know if you have any blog topics coming up about this or whatever it might be, bees or something in an apiary, and we would love to share that content. So then you can collaborate with people that way. And so that's another way to come up with content for both of you if you create that partnership. So another thing to think about is what you hope to achieve. So like I said with my supervisor today at the administrative retreat, she has a digital media report. I think it ended up being 12 pages, and it shows by department what information we posted about on our website, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And then we were able to go through and get the analytics to say there were 12 posts for animal and food science in May. This is the engagement they had, and this is the reach they had. And so because we had it already in our calendar, we were able to then go in and have a column that showed the impressions, the engagement, the activity that information in those posts received. So each post has a purpose. So if there is a Throwback Thursday that really doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing right now in your current research or in your current company, but you know that your clients or your audience will think it's cute, like the Superman comic, or my example here is you're sharing a picture that you found in your garden over the weekend of a honeybee on a flower. It's a great picture. You know, your audience will like it. That is okay to post, because you're still connecting on a more emotional or personal level with your audience. They're not going to leave your site. They're not going to stop looking at it because you do this every now and then. They're going to say, oh, okay, these people are real. They're human, and they realize that we're not just all about what pesticides to use. So it's just important to know to connect with your audience on more than one level. And again, think about what you want to measure in that post. The examples I gave here are, do you want more likes for your page? Perhaps you want more people to sign up for a newsletter. So if you create posts with that in mind and then go back quarterly and see, oh, over the last 3 months, we did get 12 new subscribers to our newsletter. We did have a successful campaign here. Let's look at what we did and continue with that trend and continue with those topics. So here are sample calendars. In my PowerPoint I created, they went in on the screen one at a time so I could talk about them before they got covered up. But for the sake of this PDF, you can see 3 examples here. They're all different. One is based in WordPress. If you're familiar with WordPress, you can see the dashboard and the WordPress lingo there. There's one that is based in Excel, an Excel spreadsheet, and then there's one that was based, I believe, in it was a tech website. It might have been Sprout Social, but that's a paid-for example, which I'm not going to discuss because I think it's too expensive. It's $59 a month at a minimum. So I gave you an example here of it, but I wouldn't use it. You can do this. You can do this for free. So here in these samples, you can see it talks about the date, the topic, the blog title. You can put in keywords. You can put in what type of assets are needed, whether it's video or images. And then at the end of this presentation, I've linked in our sample calendar, and we have a URL field so that after the fact, we can put in any stories or links that had something to do with that topic, and then the following year, we can refer back to it. This was supposed to be a YouTube video. Obviously is not going to play in a PDF, but you can look it up. CoSchedule is $15 a month, but there's a free trial. $15 a month. If you have that in your budget, this WordPress tool is incredibly valuable, and it allows drag and drop features for your posts in WordPress, but it also connects you to your social media accounts. So you're not going to 5 different places to schedule things, which I find very useful. I enjoyed the free trial of this. So it's a valuable online tool if you have that in your budget. But other ones, scrolling. So other WordPress plugins that you can use are Editorial Calendar, Edit Flow, and Press Forward. And Press Forward is one that allows for the collaboration I've been talking about. So all of these are free. This PDF will be accessible to you after this presentation in addition to the recording of this. So don't feel like you need to write down any of these URLs or anything. You'll have access to this material. But these tools are all something you can integrate into a WordPress website. So they're incredibly valuable if you have a WordPress website, which allows you to schedule things in advance. Now, editorial calendars offline for those of us who are not using WordPress or who would just prefer to have something we can print out that's tangible. So again, at the end of this presentation, a sample of our editorial calendar will be available to you to download, and it is in an Excel format. This big long link here is from Hootsuite. It's their free template, and it is from last year, so the dates wouldn't be for 2015, but again, gives you an example of the type of fields people use in their templates. And then I'm not sure if you're familiar with Curata, but it's a content marketing site that has a plethora of ideas on how to come up with content, how to market your research, and it also has a list of editorial calendars that you can print out or you can download and use. So I would highly recommend looking at their website as well, and you can just Google that if you don't want to worry about that long URL. Oops. Having trouble there. Okay. So oh goodness. What did I do? Bear with me. I did a webinar on Google Analytics, which I'm going to be doing again, I think, in January. But one of the cool things about Google Analytics that you can do is find out how people are getting to your website. So I pulled up the University of Delaware's Cooperative Extension Analytics, and I went to acquisition, and then after you click on acquisition, you click on social, and then you click on network referrals. And for today, August 12th, was our information on sessions, but you can see the little graph. But today we had 154 people come to our cooperative extension website strictly through Facebook. So these are just the social networks. These are not organic referrals. These are not web searches. These are people who are coming directly through something else. And Facebook is our most popular on extension. And then we have Blogger and Twitter. And Blogger is something our field crop experts are using to blog with. We are hoping to export them into WordPress and out of Blogger just to keep things consistent. But the point here is that you have tools at your disposal. Google Analytics is free that will show you how your social media networks are actually performing. Knowing these statistics can show you, okay, maybe Pinterest isn't what our audience is looking at. We only had 1 people get to our site from there. Maybe we shouldn't put our efforts into Pinterest anymore. So having that information is very valuable. I'm going to try to scroll slower so I don't lose myself again. So this chart is just a basic chart. I think it also came from Social Sprout about how often someone should post. And for me, this makes it even more obvious that I need an editorial calendar because there's no way I'll remember to post all of these times without it. So the basic guideline here is if you have a photograph, you have video. Oh, I'm sorry. I just found out saw the question from you, and I'll answer in just a second. So you have the create source content, the videos, all those things we talked about already, and we're going to talk about a little bit more further. But it also has an idea for posting frequency. Twitter is at the top because Twitter is a live, real-time updating platform. So people normally don't scroll to yesterday on their Twitter feeds. They look at what's happening live. You're more likely to reach more users if you post more frequently. I think the furthest I've ever gone in the past in Twitter on my own accounts is maybe 4 hours. So if you haven't posted in the last 4 hours, I'm not going to see it. And that's why people post more frequently to Twitter. And that can be posting the same type of content but rewording it. So if you have an event coming up, we have Evening in the Garden coming up, we might have that on our Twitter feed several times, but the likelihood that the same person sees it every time is slim, just because of the nature of it. And then 2 to 3 times for Facebook, 1 to 2 times for Instagram. On our Facebook page, sometimes we post 2 to 3 times in a day, usually not. I would say it's more likely that we would post 2 to 4 times in a week on Facebook. That could be something that we're missing out on for our audience. But I think that when school starts, for the college, for the University of Delaware, we post more frequently. In the summer, we're sort of ho-humming it, trying to think about things that we want to share for a limited audience since we know our students aren't here. Now we're going to get into populating your editorial calendar. How can I find things for 6 Twitter updates, things like that. So I just have 2 examples here of content that didn't necessarily link to anything on our website. It didn't link to our materials, but it got engagement because it was something that our users were interested in seeing. So someone had tweeted to us, did you see that it was a hen fever from the 1800s, Queen Victoria, or I'm not sure which queen it was, but she loved poultry and she loved hens, and she created an entire hen fever in Europe, and it came up in this day in history. So somebody commented to us about it, and then we tweeted back. And then another thing was this incredible story about a U.S. Marine who had lost his legs, but he was riding a bike all across the country, and he came through Newark. And so the University of Delaware took pictures and posted about it, and then we took the opportunity to share it. We were able to tag his Ride Across America page, and we were able to tag the city of Newark. So it was an opportunity to reach out and partner with other people and share this story that had a good feeling to it that we knew that our audience would resonate with. And then there was one recently, we're a part of Ask an Expert with extension.org, and somebody asked how to create a frog garden, or it might have been a toad garden. And when I saw the question, I thought I have to post about this because it had been raining buckets. And so I shared that. Toad garden, and it linked to a question on extension.org, but it ended up getting, I think, 12 different engagement clicks and comments, which was good because it was a toad garden, but I thought it was a cute story. It's just something to know that your content doesn't always have to link directly to a press release. We also do look through this day in history because that's how we found out about National Dairy Day. And we were able to make a post about the cows here on the dairy farm on National Dairy Day, which also did very well. So knowing different things like this and being able to plan ahead will allow you to fill in content and not be thinking on that day, oh, what am I going to post? Because you already have that planned out. There's another idea for populating your calendar. Feedly, and this is just something that I use, but it's an aggregate resource, and when you sign up for it, you type in things you're interested in. So if you created a Feedly account and then you type in the different field crops you're interested in, or wheat or barley or different animals or ponds, different water sources, things like that, and then it'll show you what's trending in those areas. So you can share the posts for the other people, or you can repurpose it. So if you see that there's something trending with a certain wildlife or certain wetlands, then you can say, oh, well, our university has 6 wetlands on our property, and it's just another way to repurpose things based on something that you know is already trending and already showing that it's popular with people. So Feedly is just one of the aggregate resources that funnels trending content, but it's the one I use, and I find it very easy to use. So then, when you're posting and thinking about what to do, you don't want it to just be text posts or just links to articles. You want to think about other things. So you might be thinking about video or images and infographics, which seem to be very popular right now. And using different types of media is important because people seeing the same thing over and over again, it becomes it looks stagnant. Even if it's new content every day, it looks the same. So just throwing in something here and there that's different is important so that you have a wide variety for your audience and you're reaching as many of the users as possible. And we know that people like to see things, they're visual by nature online, and a lot of news stories that have video components end up doing very well because then you're reaching people both, I read this story but I don't quite understand, and then you reach out with a video, which I'll talk about in a minute. So infographics, I've become very intimate with infographics lately. I was just part of a campaign recently with my kids in school, and we created infographics to explain something that was pretty complicated related to funding of schools. And so I used, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but it's Vengage is how I pronounce it, and it's free and premium. I ended up getting the premium version because I wanted to see the different templates and visual elements. But if you go to Vengage and you create a free account, it then gives you templates that have the different bar graphs and arrows and numbers and visual elements, the little icons. And you just fill in the content with your title, your percentages, your sources, things like that. So for the University of Delaware, I know they have small little infographics that say how many students they have, how many of those students are from Delaware, how many of those students are out of state, how many of those students are studying in a particular field. So there's a variety of things you can make infographics for, and then you can share them on multiple different platforms, whether it be Pinterest or Twitter or Facebook, or you can embed them into a story to visually explain what your story is about. Images. So images, like my Superman one and other images. I know that if you go down Twitter or you go on Facebook or even in story posts, images are the things that are most clicked on. I used to work at the News Journal, and we would do heat maps to see where people were clicking on the front of our landing page for Delaware Online. And the images were always bright red. So the images and the headlines were getting the most clicks. But the rest of the stories, like read more, links, they didn't get clicked on much. But if a story had an image, it was guaranteed that that image was going to be read. People were more likely to click on it. So I included a few tools here. One thing that I think is interesting is if you are doing an interview or have read an interview with an expert and you like a certain little blurb that they said, it would be cool to include that on your website, but maybe not necessarily as just plain text. Maybe you want it to look like an image. So there's these free tools here. One's called Recite and one's called Quotes Cover, and that's more for the bigger horizontal pictures for your covers on Facebook or Google or Twitter, but you can use it for any purpose. And essentially they have templates. You plug in the author of the quote, and then it makes it look all pretty, and then when you share it, it's more shareable, more visual. Likewise, if you have collages, you can do it with Flickr, but there are other tools that allow you to embed maybe 5 or 6 of your best pictures, and the links are here as well. And I think that they're very useful for images for sharing across social media that are more visual. Oh, another example was if you had a really great customer testimony for something, one of your clients just said, thank you so much for your customer service, was great, you got back to me right away, something like that. And if they allow you to use it as a testimony, you can put it into Recite, and then it'll make it look more professional, and it's more than you just typing it out. So that can be really useful. And here's an example. So I just like the word shrubbery. So this example quote is just, it's plain, it's a gray background here. You can see the author in the bottom right corner. This came from a website called Meatville, but the quote was, I'm not a garden expert in any sense of the meaning, only someone who blunders about in the shrubbery, which is something I would post. Definitely not true of our master gardeners and experts in extension. They are definitely experts. But you can see this as an image is more compelling than if you had seen it as a plain text update on your social media accounts. And then on YouTube, I think one of the coolest things to do with YouTube, if you're not out in the field with a camera, is if you have a really technical, researchy article, but you're able to interview that person. You can position a camera and you can ask the person questions, and it's a quick 2-minute explanation, Q&A, and you film that expert, and then that's embedded into your article. I did say if you do this, to make sure that it's horizontal, also make sure that your audio is clear. And video is a whole other beast of media, so it really does require more expertise in a whole other webinar, but YouTube is definitely popular. It's, I think, the most searched other than Google. And Google owns YouTube, but YouTube is the most searched search engine field box when you go to YouTube and you punch that in than any other search engine on the web right now, so it's very popular. And then just following up to know that if you've promised something, like if you say stay tuned for our Friday gardening tips, then make sure that every Friday you do post a gardening tip. And likewise, if you have this calendar and you have things scheduled out, maybe you're not thinking about them as much because they're already scheduled in advance. Just make sure to go back to your accounts and look to see if your posts have comments and respond to those people. Just so that you have that extra engagement, but they also know that you're paying attention to them outside of just posting. So just following up on that. And also, I also say social media is very neighborly. So if you were in your neighborhood and you walked out of your house and you waved and said hi to somebody, but they didn't respond, then that might irk you a little bit. But if they turn and say hi back, then that makes you feel better and you go about your day. And that's the same with social media. If somebody comments on your social media or if they share your content, it's really nice if you say, hey, thanks for sharing that, or respond to their comments and say, I appreciate your comment, something like that. Just to be that neighborly person on social media. And then last but not least, reporting. So we talked about the digital media reports. If you just go back into your editorial calendar, have a column in which you can input data and share the engagement that post received. It allows you to see trends, what your audience likes, so you can create similar content in the future and plan things in advance even further, like the National Ice Cream Day example.
Thank you for watching our archived presentation of our Wednesday webinar. If you would like to see more archived Wednesday webinars, please visit our YouTube channel, or to find a schedule of upcoming live webinars, visit our website.